Welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, located right here in Middletown, Connecticut, with a satellite center in Meriden, Connecticut, just 15 miles to our west. And today my guest is Susan Lugli, and Susan is a professor in our business program and is new to Middlesex as of the fall of this current school year. And so it's always fun to kind of find out, like, what was your experience of Middlesex that you didn't expect? I mean, and you probably anticipated a lot of things because you've taught before, you've taught at community colleges. You've also had a lot of experience in industry, which would be fun to talk about. But, was there anything that was sort of a stumper? Like, oh, I didn't think this would happen.
I wouldn't say that it isn't, because you're the only campus with rolling hills, and that's one of the things I love about the campus. And I think that the dedication, there's a lot of people here who are very dedicated to the students. I actually thought the students were a little different than I've been used to. I think they come in from a different demographic. There's a little less adult students than I'm used to. Sometimes there are a little more adult students, and I don't know, it's because I taught during the day and I still had more adult students. But I think that the mix of students is kind of similar, but just kind of unique a little bit to the area. I haven't been in Connecticut for a long time. I used to live in Connecticut, then I lived in Maine, and now I'm back to Connecticut. So the students are somewhat reminiscent of me in Connecticut when I was a student. So I guess I could say that some things haven't changed. So that might be what I was so surprised about.
Right. Yeah. Well, the land of steady habits, right?
Mm-hmm, so exactly.
One of the things that I really liked seeing when you arrived here was your interest in innovative marketing. You teach marketing, right? But
yes.
you teach other things, but marketing is your passion. And the crossover with the new media possibilities and social media and social marketing. All these things are really exciting and brand new. So
it's a great way to kind of segue into that. Really, more disciplines really should be cross-functional to a large extent. That communication should be more cross-functional between all departments also, because every position out there is a communication. You have to communicate no matter what you're doing. So for me, I look at it as more opportunities that we can cross the lines of departments and programs, and that's definitely where marketing can start to cross programs. And I think that I get a lot of calls from people saying, I've been in the industry for 20 years and I need to figure out what social media is and that piece of it. And I say, well, we're working on something. It's not an easy thing to piece together, because even the industry doesn't know exactly how to format itself. So there are certain skill levels that people come in and you can do with just 2 courses. And as long as you have a good social background, that's really great. And what I'm finding is more and more people are looking for that communication and writing degree, and then they're going into marketing on the second hand of it.
Oh, it's actually kind of validating for me, because I was an English major in college, and I didn't think it was a big deal to be able to write a simple declarative sentence, but it turns out it is, and I'm really happy I know how to do it. Yes, just the other day I found a misplaced modifier in a letter, and I even remember what this is, and it is misplaced. And language should be very precise. It's intended to communicate ideas, and if you haven't got a firm grip on it, it doesn't communicate what you wanted to communicate.
And in internet marketing, I had 2 students who already have jobs, and they are English majors.
Yay.
And so, I can tell you that English majors and communication majors are probably going to be the most hired in the future, because it's a big piece of communication. How do you communicate things?
Yeah.
And the way you structure a sentence technically is an analytical process.
I know.
So if you can structure a sentence, then you actually have the basic skills of analytics.
Right. I agree. And so we can come back after this break and we can talk some more about that. So we'll be back in just a moment. Well, welcome back to Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm talking today with Susan Lugli, who's a marketing and business professor here at Middlesex. And we just closed the last segment by talking about how important writing is and clear communication, and the sort of rising to the top of that discipline and those disciplines and subjects in colleges as being, I think they're incredibly good career preparation, speaking as somebody who kind of, I use those skills every day. on my writing skills and communicating skills. But you must be thinking about it with students, because you've got to get them to be able to communicate, but also to focus their thinking on how you persuade somebody, right? Marketing is about persuasion.
Marketing is about persuasion, but it's also getting people to yes. So in a sense, people say the biggest persuasion is silence. Because in that void, people will tell you the most amazing thing. So a good salesperson is actually someone who's silent and has very high listening skills, able to articulate back what you said, and decode messages, even not only verbal messages, but visual messages that someone is saying to you. And so I think that those skills are also taught. We really look at the discipline across the board. Patty and Ben and I came from industry. We understand that. The language in business is different. It's short, to the point, very quick. It's if you send me something, it has to be quick, because I have 3,000 emails waiting for me. So basically, I need to know what's the topic, what you want me to do about it, what would you like me to do about it, and how it's going to be fixed in the date and the timeline with that. And so messages now have become shorter, thanks to kind of social media, and to the point. And I think the pace is so much faster. Business gets done. It's 24/7. If I say to the students, I usually get back to you because I'm on social. I understand that. You send me an email, I get back to you because it hits my phone and I get back to you. That's what I need to do, because that's what I did in business for so many years. So don't be surprised on a Sunday if I send you a note saying, hey, you haven't done this. And because for me and for you in the future, you need to understand life is a 24/7 cycle. So if you don't want that, make sure the profession you're going in shuts down. But it's kind of hard to see that.
Which professions? I suppose people set very strong boundaries, but honestly, I'm on 24. I feel it's, I do sleep, but I'm 7 days a week reading my emails, looking at things online, reading articles.
It is 24/7. Life is 24/7 nowadays. And the other piece that I think that still needs to be discussed with the students even more so is they're always focused on what's the course that I'm going to use most in work. And basically it's every course, in any course you can use, because any and every course rounds your skills out. And the businesses aren't looking just for you to look through a little silo there and this is what I do. They want you to be able to say, oh, I've noticed so-and-so in human resources needs this resource from me, and I need an accounting or a project manager. Or you have to have skills that interact with all departments, and the days of just having one skill are over. You have to have well-rounded skills in almost any piece of that. And then you need to be able to communicate. Back to the marketing piece. How do you communicate to someone that you have those skill levels? And how do you get to persuade someone to hire you, which is a big, the Chronicle, I just was reading, actually, that's the biggest issue is interviewing skills. Very poor interviewing skills that come out from each and every interview. And those people and students, that can come out of a school and interview well and have had that experience, they rise to the top.
I wonder what it is, because I've certainly interviewed people and I've gotten 10 minutes into the interview and I thought, oh, this is not going to work. There's nowhere to go from here. And I have another 45 minutes to fill, so that's complicated. But I wonder what goes through the minds of people who they want a job and they got to the interview stage, which, and then they say things that damage their chances of ever being hired, because they just aren't thinking about the relationship maybe between what they say and the impact it has on the listener.
I think that that's the case, but I also think that as an interviewer, I love this when they get kind of settled into the interview and they really let themselves go. That's when they really reveal things that, okay, this is, these are work habits that you don't want to know. And I just did an interviewing thing in classes where we talk about, I was the bad interviewee, and so we sat there. This is what a bad interviewee is, basically, that I don't do work other than what's in my job description, that oh no, that's not in my job description. I only do what's in my job description. Or gossip and talk about gossip, and that might blame everyone else but myself, where I don't take responsibility. So we talk about responsibility, integrity, bringing that into the interview and making sure that that's your focus in that interview, and at the same time having the stories. I said, if you approach it as telling your story, then it's not an interview. But make sure you're telling a true story, and make sure you have in that story where you're the hero in every time. And in that interview, you always need to be the hero, and you'll do well on your interview. Just make yourself the hero every time, with humility.
That's actually a tall order,
It is.
But the integrity piece is really important, I think, and to some degree, I suppose people learn integrity by modeling behavior that they see, or thinking hard about decisions that are, where there's no clear right or wrong.
I think that's it comes down to ethics and trying to teach ethics, and in a sense that you have to see what you get from family ethics. I talk a lot about family dynamics because for me, family dynamics shaped who I was, and I think family dynamics shape who everyone else are. That you bring your family with you wherever you go, and so those are we talk a lot about family and where they are and how they approach life from that, and then bring their stories from that approach too. One of the pieces, getting back to the to marketing, and as just being selling to a large extent. I think a lot of students come into the class, and that's the first thing I say. How many people think that marketing is just selling? And it's so much more. And management is so much more than leading people. And all of them require soft skills. And if you don't have the soft skills, that this is the place to kind of get it. And also, it's okay to fail. This is the environment. This is perfect for you to fail. So we talk a lot about failure in the classes too. Because I think society is getting us to a point where there's no failure. And without failure, you don't have advances.
That's right, yeah.
You really need to have a lot of failures to advance.
Yeah, I sort of like Garrison Keillor because he's a Minnesotan, but all the kids are all the children are above average, and it's like, well, it doesn't really work that way, yeah. But we've got that myth that's operating, yeah. Tell me about the kinds of, what is your story? Like, you obviously, what did you do before you came to Middlesex Community College?
I am one of those people who started out, didn't know what they wanted to do in school, but thought I liked the ocean, so I wanted to be an oceanographer. Did I even think that I needed to have science skills with that? No. So I went and took, so I was going to be an environmental science major, which at the time, in the 70s, late 70s, my father was like, oh my God, you'll never get a job out of college. So just promise me you'll take a business class. And they'd call me the tree hugger and all that because I sort of was that in my family. And so I went away to school, to a small school in New Jersey, and I found that I just couldn't do the science. I just didn't enjoy it. And so after him begging me, I did take a management and a marketing course, and I loved him.
You really liked it?
I liked it a lot. I would say it was unique. I liked it. I felt it fit my personality. And you want something that fits your personality and who you are. And doesn't mean that I can't have social, keep the environment as my personal social agenda versus my business agenda, and try and do the responsible thing throughout, business-wise, as much as I can for that. So I ended up with a marketing degree. I came back to Connecticut and got it from the University of Bridgeport and got a marketing degree, and started in the recession in the 80s, which was a valuable lesson.
There's like always a recession. I graduated from college in a recession in the 70s. Yeah, so there was one in the 80s, one in the early 90s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I started in insurance in Boston, and then I said, if I'm going to be a marketing major and a business major, I'm going to go find what is the strongest business thing that you can do. And that was the stock market at the time, because it was kind of a growing field for not necessarily women at the time, but it was a growing field, and it was curious. I was curious about that field and hadn't really learned about it. So I got a job in the brokerage industry for 3 years, and I learned that no matter how much money you make, you're still bring yourself along and can be pretty miserable.
Yeah, boy, let's talk about that when we come back from a break, because there's been a lot of recent news about a lack of ethics in the financial districts and the financial part of the economy. So we'll be right back. Well, we're back at the Middlesex Moments radio show roundtable, and today Susan Lugli is talking with me about everything from marketing and business at Middlesex to what has the college been like for her for the last year, and now we sort of transitioned into what's your story. So what is your story? And we had gotten to the point where you were going to work in the stock market, right?
Right. I worked for a brokerage firm. At the time, there were tax shelters, so I worked in with a VP that we did a lot of tax shelters, and then the market sort of changed. Reagan came in and got rid of the ability to write off some of the things, so the tax structure changed, and so less people were going for write-offs. These shelters, they were called, which is kind of an interesting, I think we've come full circle again, and now there are tax shelters out there just in a different format. So then I did really well. I did really well, but I was a little burnt out quickly. So I...
was it sort of like it's depicted in the films?
Yeah,
like
pretty
Wall
much
Street,
what you saw is
greed
what
is
it was
good,
like. Greed is
yeah.
good. It is and it isn't. I mean, you help a lot of people. Like, there are people who make money. I mean, there are a lot of really good people in the market. I mean, and this was a time, where there was a transition, whereas it was only really the truly wealthy that were in the market with stocks and some of those pieces. And yet, you have my dad, who was a blue-collar worker that did put his money, they got Stanley Works or some of these other companies, they got profit sharing and they bought stocks and they were able to do that. So my dad was very interested in the stock market, and he bought stocks when I think it was like 21. He was buying shares of stock, and that has helped him in his years now, income stocks, and he has a nice income. And he never made a tremendous amount of money over his lifetime, but he made really good investment decisions in buying low or keep buying, holding, and having a really great income in the future. And so, unfortunately, it's again 10%, 15% of the people maybe are bad, or there's some percent that are bad, but you forget all the good, because it does increase wealth. And if you look at how you increase your wealth, your money makes money for you. And so in that environment, I learned that money flows to money, and money can make money for you if you understand how to use it and never get over your head in debt and some of those pieces of it. And that truthfully, some of the people that I dealt with were fantastic. A lot of the people who came by their money easily weren't as fantastic. So it was a good lesson on how people handle money and how they treat other people with money. So I decided to leave that field, and I had made enough money that I traveled for a year.
Oh, wow.
Paid off my student loans and went around the world.
Did you really circumnavigate the globe?
Yeah, I didn't go all the way. I went to Australia, New Zealand, and when I hit New Zealand, I was in love with New Zealand. So I spent 3 solid months there. To the day I had to get out. I had to hitchhike up from the South Island all the way to the north and get on a plane. And my last place, I met up with some friends, and that was just when New Zealand was opening a brokerage, their stock market. They said, you have to stay and help us. And I'm like, I have to go home because I'll stay here forever. And I just missed family and was time to go back. So, it's always bridge never crossed, or the change of direction, Yeah. But I don't miss, I hope to get back there someday, but I know that it was a great, fantastic place. So that's sort of where I stopped and spent a fair amount of time.
Yeah, and then what?
Then I came back, and then I came back and decided I wanted to go to a coastal city on the East Coast. I went up to Portland, Maine, and found sales and got into sales, which was in a small greeting card company, and which grew rather quickly, and Hallmark acquired us. So it was great. 5 years of sales, promotions, and getting promoted to regional manager. And
this is a great company. This is lovely. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and everyone dreamed of working for Hallmark, which at the time was located in Kansas City. Is
Correct,
it still
yes,
there? Right.
Yes.
And so I want to ask you, did you become a connoisseur of greeting cards? And what is a good greeting card? And
Oh, I was before I even was, I had cards that I had from a kid that I always saved. I love cards. I look on, my friends all laugh at me every time they give me a card. The first thing I do is look on the back of it. Who's it by?
Right.
So to me, it's about the message, and it's about it's about the feel of it, like what type of paper they're using, the message that's inside, the visual on it. I'm pretty I don't need it to say mom, dad, and all those other pieces, but I do know because I went into product development after that. I was started in sales, and then I finished my career in product development in creating cards. And the psychology behind it is fascinating. I mean, it's a very psychological. There's different sending situations and different, everyone has a different taste. There's contemporary, there's traditional, and the most traditional card buyers are men. They're very traditional. They know what they want, and it's a pretty cookie cutter format, and that's what they buy. And the verse is everything.
Yeah.
And smooshy, swoopy verses on mom and wife are hot sellers, and big cards. And what's great is you can charge men a lot of money, because most men think that if you look at the price, it's going to be like, look at how much I spent on you.
Right.
I got $10 card.
Wow.
Isn't that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, we love making the cards for guys because we knew we'd make a lot of money on them.
So did you do, you must have done product research. I mean, how do you know that men like?
Because you do product research, there's a lot of research on that. I mean, if you ask most men, because also you see what's selling. I mean, nowadays it's digital. We can see in a minute, that's fascinating to me. If you put a product online and it doesn't sell in 10 minutes, oh, well, what's wrong with it? And then you can alter it and put it back online and say, oh, look at now it's selling.
Yes.
So, I mean, back then you would first you'd have to get your cards through to the retailer or push them through to the retailer, and then you'd have to get them through the general public, and then you'd get back what's sold, and you'd have to say, well, what do you think sold this card? And there were patterns that you can see, long verse, short verse, and when you create the card, you knew your sending situation. So you have a young daughter going to an older mother, or you have a young son. A mother buys a card for her son to give to his father on Father's Day, and the age of the son matters. So there's tremendous amounts of versing that you have to deal with, and the photos, and there's a reason why most male cards are brown or blue.
This is revealing. This is amazing. So what was it about this little company in Portland, Maine that made Hallmark want to buy it? And
it wasn't Portland, Maine. It was out of Indiana. It was called Sunrise Greetings. And they had, how they started was children's illustrators. So they had Jan Brett, which you may or may not know of Jan Brett. And they had Mary Engelbright.
Of course, yeah.
which was our bread and butter. And then we had a few humor lines, which was like The Neighborhood, which was the Far Side, only a little farther than the Far Side. And that's what we started with. And then they took the model of the children's illustrators and kept building the lines out until we got, the 90s, there was a proliferation of greeting card companies. There's low barrier to entry. It's easy to make the product. And so we grew. And then the avenues that you can, retailer stores. So in the 90s were like the heyday of greeting cards. Many, many small companies went out there and started up. And we grew rapidly in 5 years. I mean, it was tremendous growth. And then what happened was we became the Barnes & Noble. We were in Barnes & Noble as a smaller greeting card company. And then we asked them if we could just supply their whole department. And we'll just manage their inventory and do everything. And that was attractive for Hallmark because our market was higher educated because we had higher quality, higher educated, higher book people. I used to say that we're the BMW of card line, and so people would look for those cards in many different places. And so Hallmark didn't have that market, and they wanted that market, and they wanted Mary Engelbright. I think that was a really great license for them to have. So they purchased us and then swallowed us up.
Yes, right.
And there you go. We're gone.
Yeah.
And then I went to another small card company and developed for them. And they were in Maine.
So this goes on and on and on. Mm-hmm. This is remarkable. So what would you say is what happened in the 90s with the cards? I mean, the 90s was a heyday. So where are we now? Where are we
all those little small companies are gone. They're still Hallmark, and American Greetings is sort of fighting it out. And there's, but most of them were bought up by little conglomerates, and the people aren't buying cards anymore. What happened was the digital age.
Right.
I'm sending you an e-card.
And it sings and dances just like some of these that you fold open. And
Right. But that's the newest piece that's getting more popular now, getting cards that are actually, they sing to you, they do many, many things. You can record your voice in them. So those cards are now starting to, but those obviously have a higher bar to entry because you have to make them overseas. And a lot of production went to overseas. But so, the industry's changed dramatically, and the card and gift industry all has changed. It was card and gift and stationery. It's changed.
Yeah. I can see why you would love marketing. Because you just get to observe the world and watch these things going by.
Marketing is communication, psychology, and business put together. That's why I like marketing, because I like all three of those things. I love business, I love psychology, and I like communication.
Yeah.
So it's all three of those. And that's why I say marketing isn't selling. Marketing's communicating business ideas.
And understanding human nature, too.
Human nature and psychology.
Right. I
so
love it.
It's great.
So great that you're now on our faculty.
I love it.
I'm glad you do.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your coming over to be on this program today. And I'm guessing there may be some people in our vast listening audience, and it is really large, who might be interested in studying marketing in general or business in general at the community college in their neighborhood. And we are Middlesex, the communities college. But also might want to just take a course or two or learn about social marketing or online marketing. Or just come by and have a chat with you. So if they wanted to do that, you spell your last name Lugli.
Yes.
Even though you say it Lugli.
Yes.
It's not a double O.
Kind of towards the Italian version of it.
Yes.
But one thing I want to say is
keep
their eye out for, hopefully in the future, possibly more internet marketing type courses. Like we already have search engine optimization, but I'm hoping to have some sort of analytical course, possibly a certification in Google Analytics.
That would be fantastic.
Which is not going to be a fork, would probably be, a non-credit course.
Yeah, but that's where all the magic happens. All that's
it's what you need to know.
Too. Yes, exactly.
You need to know.
And so, all right. So we've been talking and talking and talking. We need to conclude this show. So I want to thank you once again.
Thank you.
This is Anna Wasesha. It's been Middlesex Moments. And if you're interested in finding out more about us, you can find us at mxcc.edu on the World Wide Web. I'm wishing you a good day.